They say a good compromise leaves everyone unhappy. Well, that's not really an option if you're a hostage negotiator. Fortunately, there are some tricks to getting what you really want. And as you're about to see, those tricks can be used in all walks of life.
Ever tried to negotiate a good deal on a car or home? Or maybe you've wanted to ask your boss for a raise. Having been the FBI's leading international kidnapping negotiator and working over 150 cases from the Middle East to Haiti, Chris Voss knows a thing or two about the art of negotiating. In his book, Never Split the Difference, Chris teaches you how to negotiate as if your life depended on it. So whether you're trying to make a sale or talk to your troublesome teenager, Chris wants to show you how to use world-class negotiation skills that give you the competitive advantage in any discussion.
Chris Voss is here with us now. And Chris, welcome to our program.
Thank you very much.
It's so good to have you here today.
My pleasure.
Let's talk, if we can, about what happened in the last several hours, couple of days. You know, here was a guy who was a terrorist, and his goal was to kill as many people as possible.
Right.
So what level of negotiating do you have with someone like that? If that's their end goal, how do you deal with that?
Well, there's two things, and it was a tactical empathy that we used in hostage negotiation, which actually applies to everything, is first of all, understanding what somebody's really after, and then at what point in time you've encountered them. A guy like this is actually on what's called the killing journey. And every single time that we prepared, we had to, you know, what if we'd have caught that guy a block away from the nightclub? What would we have said to him? If for some reason we'd have gotten a few seconds to talk to him, even in the slightest moment, wherever I can get an edge, wherever I can get an advantage, understanding the adversary is not the same as agreeing with them. Mm-hmm. And when you begin to make that distinction, you can find that you can talk to anybody if they'll talk back. Yeah. And once they start talking, you've got leverage.
Well, our government has sort of a long-standing policy that we don't negotiate with terrorists, but you don't necessarily think that's wise.
Well, you know, actually, there's a nuance to the policy that a lot of people don't understand because it's complicated to explain, but we don't make concessions to terrorists. Okay. That's what the policy says. Because we look, I used to always say, when I used to brief the White House, I'd say, we don't negotiate with terrorists, we negotiate against them. Yeah. So we begin to use negotiation as a way to get what you want without compromising.
One of the things that you talk about utilizing is something you call mirror words. Talk about that a little bit.
Talk about that a little bit? So what we do is we do what I just did. I mirror the person I'm talking with.
That was well done.
And it made you want to talk with me, didn't it? I mean, what you'll feel like that is you want to open up. You want to extend the conversation. Mm-hmm. It connects us even more. So I try to connect us even more. And then it also helps you think. And it expands your thought processes, and it gives both of us a moment to move forward together collaboratively.
You know, sometimes, very often, in fact, the people who are perpetrators of these kind of acts have mental issues. So do things like mirror words and some of the other tactics that you talk about work with someone who's delusional or suffering from mental incapacity?
Well, everybody has patterns. It doesn't matter who you are, you've got patterns. And the crazier they are, you know, they're crazy because we don't like their patterns. Yeah. But it's my job as a negotiator under any circumstance to be able to figure out your patterns and then to work with that.
To kind of define them.
Right.
It's a little creepy. It's kind of like you got to go inside somebody's head and start thinking like that a little bit.
Well, you compartmentalize, and again, if you can make the distinction that understanding is not agreement, there's tremendous power in that.
Yeah. You say that the word no is something you're working toward in a negotiation with someone. What do you mean by that?
Well, no is protection. Yes is commitment. When you say yes, you commit yourself to something, you begin to immediately worry about what you've gotten yourself into.
Yeah. Can I fulfill what I've promised here?
Exactly. And so, but when people say no, they center themselves. They feel protected. You know, it's little things like, and everybody that works for me, nobody ever says when they call somebody on the phone, have you got a few minutes to talk? Because you wonder what you let yourself in for. Everybody that works for me says it's now a bad time to talk.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. I like that. I might use that.
Please do.
You also talk about the word compromise, that compromise isn't necessarily a good word, though we think of it as such.
Right, right.
Talk a little about that.
Well, there's a difference between a high-value trade and whether or not we compromise. And compromise most of the time is like, you know, when I came in this morning, if I wasn't sure whether or not I should wear black shoes or brown shoes, I compromised and I wore one black and one brown.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what compromise is. And actually, I probably should have done that. I would have caught you off guard if I'd
won't
worn
hold your
two
feet
different
to the
color
fire.
shoes. But, you know, compromise is usually a shortcut because I don't know what to do, and you end up with two solutions that don't work well together.
So what's the alternative to that? What would you prefer?
Well, let's talk a little bit more about what you have that you could give me that's really worthwhile, and let's make a high-value trade. Mm-hmm. I spoke to a bar association in Memphis one time, and my fees can be high, but they had a magazine. They said, we'll put you on the cover of the magazine. Now, that costs them nothing, and it's a rare thing for me to get. And it was a perfect trade-off, and they got me in there for a much reduced fee because of how much value that gave to me.
Black swans, what are they?
You know, the things that you never guess that make a huge difference. And every negotiation, you're keeping stuff from me. Yeah. You're hiding cards.
Like the nugget that you're looking for.
Right, and the black swan is really where those unknowns overlap. And what we need to do is, I need to get you talking. I need to mirror you. I need to paraphrase you. I need to summarize you. I need you to look at me and say, that's right. Mm-hmm. And at that point in time, you'll probably say something that you had no idea was really important to me, and I'll go like, holy cow, that makes all the difference in the world.
What's the most difficult negotiation you've ever been in?
Well, when people stop talking entirely, if the other side won't talk at all, that's the most difficult. And there have been different times when we actually learned to negotiate through the media because we couldn't get the other side to talk with us, but we knew they were paying attention to the media. So we'd put something out in the media and we'd influence them, they wouldn't know it.
So you say body language is important. In what way?
Well, you know, body language probably constitutes about anywhere from 75 to 95% of your reaction for me to figure out. Now, the fascinating thing is, if you're negotiating with several parties, you want to watch the body language of the people that aren't speaking. Because everybody, the talker knows everybody's attention is on the talker. So the people on their side that are listening, they don't think that you're watching them. And so when their talker says something that they don't like, you know, they'll make all sorts of shifts in their chair because they think nobody's looking at them. And those are really the people who watch in a negotiation.
So I think the big question probably everybody is wanting to know is, how do you ask your boss for a raise?
You look at your boss and you say, do you want me to fail? You'll be stunned at what people are willing to say no to.
Really?
Absolutely stunned. And your boss will say, of course I don't want you to fail. And then you'll say, well, in order for me to do what you want me to do, how am I supposed to do it unless I get these things? And that opens up the conversation. What you've also just done there is you've made what you want a path to what they want. Mm-hmm. If you want me to be successful for you, then how can I do it unless I get these things? Yeah. And that's a conditional how question, and there's great power in how. There's great power in how.
There's great power in what you share in the book. I just want to say these are great insights. The book is called Never Split the Difference, Negotiating as if your life depended on it. The author is Chris Voss. It's available nationwide. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me in.
Great wisdom, great wisdom. Fascinating background you have.
Thank you.